Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Dave from the Hacking Your Health podcast. Just want to say, if you enjoy what we're doing here, what you're listening to, please share us. We're all over Instagram, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Check us out at HTTPS wehack.health, as well as our Discord server, which is discord.gg/wehackhealth. Pretty much everything is wehackhealth. But thanks again for all the support, all of the stories that you're sharing. Share your successes, your struggles. That's what this community is here is for. That's why we do this podcast, and your energy supports us. So thank you so much, and hope you enjoy the podcast.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Ben Canning.
And I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is episode 90 of Hacking Your Health podcast. Yeah, you knew it. Yeah. What's going on, dude? I feel like it. I mean, I think we say this quite often, but I feel like it's been a million years since
it has been a while. We waited till the following week to record. So actually, those that listen, it'll only be a day behind. So it is Monday, May 8th, 2023, and
we're as close to live as we have ever been.
That's right. That is absolutely right. It's actually 3 p.m. as well, which is like 1 a.m. your time or whatever. But just kidding. But you're doing this late, obviously, and getting this podcast wrapped up for this week, and then we got another one tomorrow. But got a lot going on. It's been fun. I killed myself at Orange Theory today, the new one, by the way. So I'm fully converted over to the new Orange Theory now. I've completely given up on the other one. So
okay. But was today the day that you wanted to make your mark? You had to break something to know that that's how things roll?
No. So what had happened is last week, Aaron was with me, and Aaron and I, do this every week, Monday and Wednesday. And Aaron was next to me, and I was like, man, I'm so sore because I started deadlifting more. And we could talk about that, but I wanted to make, we talked about making your specific movement like one that is yours, that you own, that you're the best at, right? And so for me, it's sumo deadlifts. And so I removed the wagon wheels. I'm doing, straight up sumo deadlifts, and I want to get strong as I possibly can at those. So I've been doing, 3 a week, 3 heavy lifts a week, not exhaustion, but just pulling heavy each week or each time. And it's been going really well. Back has been holding out well. I hit 545 for 1 this weekend, straight up. And that was after, I think it was 505 for 5. So definitely getting up there in numbers, which is awesome. And so I had just a deadlift the day before, so my glutes and hammies were just rocked. And Aaron says to me, I said to Aaron, I'm like, I'm not going to be doing much today. I'm really kind of tired. And she's like, yeah, right, okay. And I started breaking a sweat, and I just went on a tear. It was a power day, which I love, which is run as fast as you possibly can. All outs for like 30 seconds, and then you get some recovery time, and then you go again. And so it's just this ups and downs. And I do really well with those because I like the power days. And at one point I was at 12, maxing out the entire treadmill on both incline and speed. So I was at 12 miles per hour at 15% incline. This thing is like literally like up this, like wedged up, and I'm running like crazy. And the trainer comes to me. She's like, my God, I've never seen that before. So it was a good compliment. But today I was doing the rower, and the trainer's like, you should, I expect you to get 700 RPM on this. I was like, really? Okay. So I started doing it, and I was pulling so hard that I actually broke the treadmill. So they're not going to ask me to do that again. Yeah, by the way, that's number 3. That's the 3rd treadmill I've broken, but 2 were at the other place, and she doesn't know that. So this is the first one I've broken at the new place.
Well, good. I'm glad you're definitely making your mark in the new Orange Theory.
Yeah.
Which one? And I mentioned this last week, but which one? I mean, I assume you're going to drag me at the end of the month. Which one are we going to?
We can go back to the one. It's not like I made waves over there. It's just I don't go over there. We just got to make sure we go on a day that Jen is there, so you can say hi to your best friend. But it's the new one's really cool too. So we'll just do 2 days. We'll actually do 2 the same day.
Yes,
2 the same day.
Yes, so. I cannot wait. Good. So deadlifts are going well. I'm doing good, but we're still talking about you. Deadlifts are going well. No issues with lower back. We're working on strength in some and volume in the other. So that sort of the planning, I guess, pre-planning to sort of see how things work is going well?
Yeah. It's been zero issues. The biggest concern I had with switching to, straight up sumo based on how tall I am, being predominantly legs, length of the body is mostly legs, is my lower back. And, I think when you look at, I shot you my form technique, and, I really rock back far to make sure I'm kind of sitting in a chair is the best way of explaining it. And looking up and making sure my back maintains, neutral spine throughout the entire time. And what I've noticed is that, literally my back has no impact whatsoever, no soreness, no tenderness. So I'm strong enough to, handle the lifts 3 times a week, at least so far. And want to continue doing that. So I'm really excited about tomorrow. I got my legs day tomorrow, of course. And so it's been going really good. And, it's been fun, and I can't wait to keep going up in numbers. My goal is definitely 605, then, 625, then 655, then 2000, and then move up from there. But
good. I'm glad. Actually, for the first time in a very long time, there's a deadlift variation that isn't a Romanian deadlift in my plan. So I got started a new plan today. I have deficit stiff leg deadlifts. So like I'm on a platform. So you talking about your legs being long and having the where you pull from, I'm above. So I'm like 6 inches up and I'm pulling from the bar. So, I mean, I'm not pulling a lot of weight because of obviously the deficit in it, but it's a movement that I haven't really done much of. So I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do, and sort of how the goal for this plan is a lot of like posterior and back focus, and then obviously arms, because that's always the focus. So it'll be interesting to see how that and everything else, the way it's programmed, has an impact on, I guess, overall physique is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. I think when you're in town, so we're going to do the Denver thing, which will be awesome. And then after that, looking at the new training program, I think, what I like about how you kind of structure programs is areas that you want to kind of grow, right? And I think for me, the biggest areas that I want to grow are legs now, which sucks, but it's going to be fun. I just want to blow my legs up. I think legs and back are going to be my two areas I don't want to focus on here. So we'll see what the training block looks like, but the
legs
and back every day.
Yeah, but I think that's always, whenever you get to this stage in sort of as many rotations and cycles and phases that we've been through, we can start to be really choosy as to what we're going to focus on. At the start, you sort of do generalized fat loss to see sort of where we're at, and then we do sort of just generalized muscle building. But now that we're at the stage, it's like we're looking at your physique and go, right, I want this area to be better. Let's focus this 4, 5, 6 months on that, and just put more of an emphasis and more of a volume focused on those areas. So yeah, we'll plan that out. The Denver, Colorado event. Honestly, I'm not a person that gets excited a lot. I don't really share my excitement or emotions a lot, but I am fucking excited for this. Like, I just had the call just before we come on with everybody to sort of catch up and talk logistics and stuff. Essentially 2 weeks today-ish, everybody will be there. And it's just something I'm really looking forward to, because obviously there's a lot of new faces there, which will be cool. There's a lot of faces there that have been, even at the very first one that we did in Ohio, ones that were in Nashville, and then obviously a couple of guys that were in Munich as well. So familiar faces, new faces, plenty of people. Bit of a logistical shit show in terms of how I'm going to manage it with the amount of people, but I'm really looking forward to hanging out, seeing everybody, spending a bit more time, going to Topgolf, training, hiking. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. But aside from this Denver meeting and getting together, how have you been, man? I mean, you talk about the new training block, but how's life?
I mean,
you also, by the way, have a little white sticker. Yeah, a little sticker there.
Let me take that off?
No, you can keep it there. Just let me know.
I know it. I can see it.
Okay.
Do you not like it?
No, it's fine.
I'll take it off.
No, leave it. It's fine. It's fine.
Right. Aside from that, I'm good. I truthfully, I was texting Matt about this last night. I feel like I'm working at a higher capacity than I've ever worked before, which is exciting. A big focus, as I said, on this event and getting everything sort of tied up and good to go for that. But also, since I put the word out or the tweet out about sort of closing the virtual doors next week, I've had a lot of calls, but spoke to a lot of people, a lot of cool people across the whole world, having a lot of cool conversations. So there are quite a number of people joining across both teams, which is exciting. On the flip side of that, as I sort of said back and forward to you, while I love onboarding new people and taking new people on and that whole process, I'm excited to, whenever I come back from the Colorado event sort of spend some time working on the process and what that actually looks like from an onboarding coaching side of things. So that's the bits and pieces that are going on around my head. Other than that, dude, I have not much else going on. Training, I'm excited for this new training block. It's been a while, I think, since I've moved into a new training block, but I have a focus. This is the first block that I've looked at. I actually think that I really like any of this. There's no like faffiness. There's no. I was very specific with James whenever I told him the stuff that I didn't like. I think he's really taken it on board, albeit that he didn't just program 5 push days, which I'll have a conversation with him about next week. But I'm looking forward to having actually like a back focused plan as well, because it's not something as my physique probably lets on that I've ever really solely focused on. So that'll be interesting. But other than that, dude, other than work and training, nothing else is going on, but everything's good.
That's awesome. Well, today's podcast is one of our favorites, right? And applying that to Jocko, which is going to be.
So we're going to do the second part of the one that we did around the 4 laws of combat. The second part of the stuff that Jocko went through at the muster event was around mindset. So it's obviously, if we think about it in his terms, mindsets for victory. So essentially how to win in business, in life. A couple of different points that we're going to touch on, but I think before we actually get into it, I had a conversation with a client today, and it fits in perfectly with the mindset side of things. So I was talking to Armand, and you've heard me talk about him before. I remember the first time I had a call with him, and I literally came on the podcast straight after, and I was talking about how he got up at like 3 a.m. in the morning so he could get to work on time, so that he could get back on work on time, so he could get the gym in, like the no excuses, just get shit done. And I was chatting to him earlier today, and he was talking about like having to be back near his old office and like being in sort of familiar places that I guess the environment led him to old behaviors. So he was talking specifically about a bakery that he used to go every morning and get a crepe and a coffee on the way to work. And he found himself in those sort of like same habits while he was spending that time at the office. And it was funny because he was still talking, and in my head I was like, we'll just avoid that place. Like that would be my go-to. Like, just don't go to the place. Like, we know that environment plays a big part in progress and everything that we do. And he referenced the book that I told him to read, Becoming the 0.1% by Gareth Timmons, the guy that was at Matt's event. And his mindset towards it was like, he's going to go and just be there and challenge himself, not like change his sort of thought process around. I was like, what a cool thing to do. Like, just off his own bat, he was like, nah, fuck this. I'm not going to avoid. I'm just going to go because I know that I'm stronger. I have stronger willpower. And just had a really good conversation. Like, it wasn't just that, just everything he was saying. I was like, it's cool to sort of see such a shift in mindset of things that he's taken on that we've done or he's read or recommendations. Just a really cool conversation. But I thought that I'd bring that up because I knew we were going to be talking about mindset.
Yeah, that we talk about that mindset shift, that I think is one of the most important aspects of what we do here, because when you hate doing something over and over again, and you've failed at something over and over again, it's very difficult for you to overcome that perception and the feeling that you can never accomplish it again, right? And so I think that one of the biggest things that people struggle with is all of the failure in the past and the continuous failure in the future. This not only goes for fitness, but also goes for, a job that you went for and that you didn't get, a promotion, something in life that was monumental that you failed at. Our brains don't want to bring those things back up again. And what's interesting, I was listening to some research on memories. And do you ever have a memory that just randomly pops up and you get super nervous about that memory? Something that happened that you regret, or something that happened that, maybe didn't turn out the way you wanted to, and you get kind of that pit in your stomach, right? Whether it was when you were a kid or an adult, or, for me, wartime zone type stuff. And do you ever get that feeling, that pit in your stomach, like, oh man, that's bad? What's interesting, and they've done studies on this, is that your body's actually bringing it up because it's still there in your mind, and it's a defense mechanism against something bad. And so your mind is subliminally saying, hey, this is a bad thing that we need to protect against. And they said that the way that you get around that is to continuously think about that that memory over and over and over again, bringing it up yourself versus it having to shoot its way out of your brain, essentially from a defensive perspective. And then that allows you to really start to get over whatever that was. Okay. And so I thought that was really, really interesting and intriguing to continuously replay something that is obviously not great for, in your mind, something that happened that gives you a pit in your stomach. And eventually your mind is like, okay, I'm not going to be hurt from this situation. I'm not going to be in this situation where it's not real. At this point in time, I feel like it's closed and I don't have to worry about this threat again. Okay. Same thing for mindset. We have to do things over and over and over again before our mind actually understands it. And a good example, actually, yesterday, I took my kids to golf, the golf thing,
Top Golf.
Top Golf. There we go. Let's keep getting the name for a second there. So I went to Top Golf, and it was the first time that any of my kids have ever golfed before. Aaron has golfed before. I've golfed before. I'm terrible. She's terrible, but I golfed quite a bit, so I understand the rules and everything else. And my son's possibly going to be doing a caddy job for his first job, so he's interested in learning golf. So my son goes to Top Golf, and he takes the stick, the club, and I'm like, hey, you should probably use let's just start off with like a 7-iron. Okay. We'll do like mid-range here. And he takes it and he holds it all wrong. And I'm like, hey, this is kind of how you hold it. He's like, no, I got it. And he goes and he swings it. It completely misses like 30 times. Right. And he finally hits it and it like bounces up just a little bit and shoots down and it goes like maybe like 5 feet. And he gets all pissed and he's like, this sucks. This is the worst game ever. I suck at this. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pout and I'm going to be hangry. And I'm not going to be a good kid. Like that's his reaction because he's not instantly good at something that he's never done before. That is a sport that, requires years and years and years of perfection to even suck a little bit less. Right. I had to sit down with him, explain to him, like, listen, dude, I used to get made fun of, golfing with my friends because I couldn't even hit the ball, And eventually I started hitting the ball, and eventually I started being more consistent with hitting the ball. And eventually I got less sucky. I still suck, but I can still actually hit the ball. And then I beat all my family, which is great. So, but it's interesting because, towards the end of the session, once he was in the right mindset, because I had to flip him to a different perspective, he was actually hitting the ball really well. And he came in third place, and it was the first time he had ever done it. He was more consistent with the ball. And that was a very short period of time, obviously. But the continual reinforcement, the positive reinforcement around, I can do this if I practice enough, and the ability to change your mind to get to that is something that we have to learn in life. And, we have to look at this from a long-term perspective, not immediately what's going on right now. And it's hard for our children these days because our children want to get immediate gratification for getting a new skin in Fortnite, or clicking like on a button or saying something and waiting for his friends on Snapchat to respond back with lights or loves or whatever. And those things are drilled from a dopamine perspective to hit things very quickly, but doesn't fulfill us long term. And there's another study I saw where they looked at long-term accomplishment satisfaction versus short-term. And if you're able to accomplish something that is taking you a long time to do, the long-term impact of that satisfaction and your ability to be successful drastically increases because you're able to say, I can look at this from a long-term perspective to fix whatever this is or to do whatever I want to accomplish. And that's in business, that's in, your fitness life, and that's everything else. And it all comes down to that mindset aspect.
Yeah, I think the one, like when we talk about timing of things, and obviously credit to Jeff Bezos and making us all impatient for everything that we do. But the one thing that, number one, as we said before, whenever it comes to what we do, race training, the results that you expect to get in 2 to 3 months will probably take you 2 to 3 years. But I always remember something Alex Hormozi said. He's talking about people who, the most successful people in business he usually talks about, but the most successful people in business are the people who think in decades and not just think in years. So like having that sort of forward thinking to think, right, in 10 years time, and not think, what's the quickest thing that I can do here in 6 weeks time. So being able to sort of zoom out and realize that these things are going to take time. And I was listening to somebody else. I think it was Andy Frisell and Hormozi. And he was talking about him starting his supplements business whenever he was 19. And he was like, he gave himself a year, and after a year he was still sucked. But at that point he was like, well, I've put a year in. I don't want to put it to waste. So he did 2 years and he got to that, but he still sucked. And he was put another year, and I don't want to waste the 2 years. And he got the 3 years, and then he finally started making money. And he was like, well, put 3 years in there. And he says, here I am still, 20, 25 years later. I sort of thought about my own career, and I was like, I mean, I'm only really 7 years in the coaching. I'm like, well, I've put 7 years in now. Like, I don't want to waste that 7 years. So like, how far am I able to take this? Like, what is the capacity for growth in it? And I think it's so hard to not want the like you said, that instant gratification. And I have to shout out Matt for this, because he talks about delayed gratification a lot. And even if we're like sending stuff over, he's like, no, I'll wait and get it here, I'll wait and get it here, or like always waiting to sort of get the actual gratification. And I think that that's a very solid skill to have, because everything is so accessible now that we can just click a button and it's here a day later, or like you said, the likes on social media or whatever. I would like to point out, for anybody who didn't have a look on Twitter, that you may have beat your entire family at Topgolf, but the last time we played, I beat you. So that means
it's on. It's on. I've been practicing once since we last tried so far, so I feel like I'm going to be much better.
One more time than I have. So there's actually a golf course just down the road. I'm like, I wonder how many lessons I could get in the driving range.
I'm going to go golfing right now after this podcast. Like literally, I'm going to hire a professional trainer, and we're going to go do golfing right before this thing. So
the thing about it is, like, I was laughing whenever we played Topgolf in Nashville. Mike obviously golfs. And he was so frustrated, because obviously it's not like real golf, because we were playing Angry Birds, and he was so frustrated. So I think actually like a bit of naivety in it, where you just go and swing the ball and hope for the best, is probably a good tactic. But yeah, I think having the mindset to sort of think a little bit longer term and being okay with actually sucking at things. And I guess this comes back to sort of whenever Matt and I were at the muster, and we did the introduction to BJJ, I was like, I don't want to go and be shit like it. That was my sort of thought process. I'm like, I don't have a fucking clue. They're going to talk about like all the holds and all. I'm like, just going to be lying on the floor with some dude on top of me. I'm like, I'm not for that. But when I went, I had a really good time, and I sort of understood very basics of it. And I think it's okay to be shit. Like, everybody who's good at something was shit at it at some point, and that's okay.
Yeah, the reinforcement, I think, of mindset is, I think when we start getting the Jocko components of this, he's going to apply it more from like a military tactical / success business perspective, right? As Jocko does. Mm-hmm. But I think the big component on mindset that it took me a long time to figure out how I work, but I also recognize there's a lot of people that work differently, and I actually apply a lot of these mindset concepts to employees at work based off of how they operate, right? How can I give them coaching that allows them to grow individually and be successful in their careers, as well as, personally in their life and everything else? And, what I found to be really helpful, especially on the mindset aspect of things, is setting long-term goals, but ways of breaking it up to get to those goals, right? And, when you look at things myopically, we want things very, very quick. But if you can break things out into some sort of success or reward as you start to get to that point, that's where I think it becomes more attainable. Because if you're like, well, it's going to take you 15 years to get to this, and it's going to suck for 15 years. I'm like, I'm not wasting 15 years for this one thing.
Not saying that fudge it.
But if you say, hey, this journey to fitness, to get your goals is going to take 5 years, but you're going to have a lot of fun. You're actually going to start to enjoy it, and you're going to see the success very quickly. And, I think that's the big difference. And, again, I was listening to the Mind Pump guys, their podcast, and, the biggest mistake that he'll say, that they see from most people trying to lose weight, is that the first at least minimally 3 months should be fully dedicated to resistance training or working out. Specifically with weight training, to start to build that muscle and to start to change your mind to get to a certain point. And then from there, you can do a cutting phase or whatever to start to, shred a little bit of the fat that goes along in there. But you have to be able to get past that mindset component of lifting sucks. And there's so many studies coming out where muscle is the key. Muscle is the key to your long-term success around life and longevity, as well as your ability to stay consistent with your weight. Muscle's like the cheat code, and muscle is the contra, up, down, left, right, the A select start, right? muscle is your ability to do what you want to in your life and to stay healthy throughout your life. It's literally the fundamental concept of that. Now, obviously, cardiovascular health is important as well, but the focus solely on cardio is where we've really shifted people's mindsets the wrong way to get to a certain point. And so when you look at mindset, 3 months doesn't seem like a long time. It seems like something I could do, if I just dedicate, hey, 3 months, if I don't see any progress, then screw it, I'm done. Okay. I guarantee you, if you're being successful, and someone suggested to me the other day, the hard 75 or whatever the heck it's called. Right. And I was like, listen, that's fine. It seems like a cool program, but I'm already doing, I'm on like hard, 3 years. At this point in time.
Yeah. What I'm doing is already hard.
So I'm like, well, I don't want to do another 75. I'm already in the hard. Like I track all my calories. I work out 6 days a week. Like I do HIIT training. Like I do all this stuff. I'm good, but it sounds cool, but for some people that's
that same guy, Andy Friselli, that I was just talking about. He came up with it.
Did he? Well, I mean, here's the thing with that. Like, that's a cool way of kind of resetting, saying, can I accomplish this? Mm-hmm. Right. And then how do you feel at the end? The biggest concern I have with the hard 75 is, what about the next 75? And so the coming off of that is where people really
hard 75 struggle. Years. That's what
right. And that's where people struggle with all of these diets and programs and things like that. Like, what do you do next? And there was somebody on Twitter today that just said, hey, I just started the hacking your health journey. And all I've been focusing on now is understanding how many calories I'm eating through macros in my macro breakdown. So proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And he's like, it's been absolutely eye-opening. And it is one of those things now that I feel like I understand what I need to eat to lose the weight. And that type of system and understanding of what you're putting into your body starts to build, and you start to put different types of habits in place. And then from there, you can do something that's successful. And I always get asked, do you do cheat days? I'm like, well, no, I'm not doing cheat days because I eat whatever I want to, just within the confines of what I'm allowed to eat. Right. We talked about this podcast right before I had a cookie. Okay. I'm like, I shouldn't have eaten that cookie because it made me feel like total garbage. And I'm not going to eat a cookie again because I don't eat that stuff very often, but I ate a cookie. You know what? I incorporate it into my macros of what I need to do. And I have a protein shake right here, which will be my second one for the day, which Ben doesn't like, but I went over in my calories on the cookie. So I'm going to eat a protein shake again to get the protein that I need to balance out the macros. Now, I don't want to do that every day, but I can eat Taco Bell. I can eat Skyland chili. I can eat pizza. I can eat all the things that I want to eat, but it doesn't mean that I need to eat 15 pieces of pizza or a whole pizza. It means I stay within a specific system. And I saw there was a personal trainer talking on social media the other day. He made some statement. And he's like, these cheat days are you're cutting all week and basically like torturing yourself with super low calories. And then you're basically blasting yourself with, a surplus, in the weekends because you're just eating like total dog crap. And, it's these balances that we have to figure out. And I always get asked a question like, well, what do you do when you're hungry? Like, what am I supposed to do when I'm hungry? I'm like, you stay hungry. Like, it's okay to stay hungry. That's in your mind. Like, your mind is, when you're bored, you're going to the fridge and you're opening up the fridge and you're seeing what's in the fridge because you're bored. You want to eat something, right? Are you really hungry? Does your body actually need it? And it's all in the mind. So if we can stay hungry for a bit, we can plow through that. Everything else becomes easy. Our mindset starts to adjust. We're able to do the things that we need to do. And we come through there, but we have to get rid of our obsession of food and high caloric food and how much consumption of food we have. But it all comes down to that mental aspect and starting to build those habits into place.
Yeah, and I think it was Coach Pratt's, a friend of mine, an Instagram friend. He did a rant or a post about being psychologically hungry versus physiologically hungry. So like if you eat breakfast at 8 a.m. every day for 30 years and you decide you're not going to eat breakfast, your body's going to tell you that you're hungry at 8 a.m. because you usually eat, it's expecting food. So understanding that you just have that thought process of hunger and like wait 20 minutes. And if it passes and you're not hungry, success. If it doesn't pass, then just eat something. And I think that's the easiest way to play about with it. Coming back to the results thing, I saw a Usain Bolt quote recently, and it is, I trained for 4 years to run only 9 seconds. There are people who do not see results in 2 months and give up and quit. I think that's exactly it. And back to what you said with the first 2 or 3 months should be solely based on resistance training. It's not the fact that you should not look to see a change in that time. It's not to see such a huge change that you feel like you're going to be absolutely hooked. And actually, retweeted JB's post from last night. He talked about his first 16 weeks, and I sort of said, like, the way that I structure things and the way that I do things is that initial phase is a case of building the habits and building the behaviors. So getting your training down, managing your nutrition, understanding how your body responds to certain situations, getting the behaviors in place as to track your food, drink your water, take your supplements, whatever the thing may be, manage your recovery, well, all those things. Then whenever we have those things down, it's a case of, right, okay, what can we look at doing that potentially isn't as sustainable, but we know we're going to do it for a short period of time to actually sort of trial it out, test it out. And someone replied saying, is it you just do 2 to 3 weeks for the initial phase because that's how long it takes to build a habit? I'm like I did this. I went, like, I mean, yes, no, I don't really know. It depends on the person. Number one, I don't know if any of the stuff around how long it takes to build a habit is actually true length of time wise. I think it's all very independent. It also depends on the person. So like, where are they at? Have they never trained before and at McDonald's for 40 years of their life? Or do they already eat pretty well, have an idea of how much they eat, and they already train a bit? Like, there's a lot of sort of moving parts to it. But I think this is something that's changed once or twice over time. As you know, the stuff that I try and do with all clients is teach them the things that they need, that they can be successful to hit their goals long term. Something that's sustainable, something that they can live a normal life, eat a cookie, eat a pizza, go to Skyline Chili, whatever the fuck they need to do, and just know how to manage it. Just give them the tools so they can have long term success with it. It's not like super, we're going to lose 5 pounds a week and we're going to get absolutely shredded in 5 weeks. Like, that's not what it's about. It's like, we're going to be here for at least a year and see what we can get done in that time. That was the way that I dealt with things for a long time. And after a conversation with James at some point last year, he actually said to me, he's like, and I know that this isn't something that we would do with health clients. And I was like, right. He was like, we're going to do something that's not sustainable and it's going to be hard. I was like, right, okay, but we're only going to do it for a short period of time. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So it's like challenging the thought process behind it and going, okay, can I look at the next 6 weeks and go hard in terms of lower calories, higher output, see what I'm really capable of, and understand that this is purposely not sustainable and it's part of the process and it's part of the program. But I think it's the having that out and knowing when that's coming. So you'll know this as well. Like, you're talking about being able to sort of manage a 15-year plan in 6 week blocks. Like, if you tell me that I have to cut for 24 weeks, I'll tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas if you tell me...
That is a lot of food shows that I don't think I could handle it as your support person for that. I don't think I could handle it. I don't know if there's
enough food shows at all. But if we break that down into 4 6 week blocks and I do, 5 weeks hard deficit, 1 week maintenance, 5 weeks, 1 week, like I can do 4 6 week blocks, no problem. It's all like mental, like mind games. It's like when you're on maybe not you specifically because you're a different breed of person, but when I'm on the bike and I'm like, right, I have to do 20 minutes. I'm at 10. I just have to do another 5 and another 5, or I have to do, 10 2-minute blocks or whatever I need to do to sort of get through it. It's like, how can I sort of break this down to achievable targets and achievable goals? It'll sort of give you that, I tick that box on the way type thing. So yeah, being able to break things down in a shorter space of time, okay, right, I can't comprehend 24 weeks, but I can look at 6 weeks and know, okay, right, in this time, this is what I want to achieve.
Yeah, the breakdown into ways that allow you to fundamentally process is very difficult for our minds. Our minds are protective of us, and it's like, listen, we have a great life right now. Why change? Things are fine right now. I'm not in danger. Why change? And if you think about, again, evolution, we had to change and adapt and to force our bodies to do things that we didn't want to do in order for survival. And our bodies learned that, saying, listen, I'm only going to change if this is going to impact my survival. Okay. And what I've learned, through this journey and process and what I've seen through a number of other people that have done transformations. In fact, I was talking to 2 gentlemen today at Orange Theory that I'd met. They're in the later class. So I go to the 7:45. They come in at the next one. And there was a father-son combo there. And there, the father was probably, I would say, in his 60s. And the son was probably, maybe in the early 30s. Okay. And
like me.
What's that?
Like me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And so what was interesting though is they were both morbidly obese, both of them, when they had started their journeys. and they had both lost a ton of weight. So the dad was up to, I think, 270 or 280 pounds, and he was at 210. And the son had been up to 315, which is right where I was at. And it was down to about maybe 230, still on his progress, but he's obviously shaved a substantial amount of weight. Incredible transformations. And, I actually asked them, I'm like, I'm very interested because I used to be in the same route. What was the change that allowed you both to make this transformation? And they said two things. One was getting my mind there. And the second was having somebody to support me, which was his father and son. And, when you have a support system or tribe that is in the shared success of yourself, empirical, like success for you, I believe in success for you. I'm going to be there for you, and I'm going to be there every step of the way. When you have a tribe like that, your success ratio for whatever you're doing is going to drastically increase, right? And you look at this in a business sense, right? It's the same thing. If you have a really good functioning leadership team, okay, that believes in each other's decisions and works together well, most likely the company is going to run well. Now there's outside factors, economic, things like that. But at the end of the day, the decisions that team makes will have a higher probability of success than not. Whereas when you get into a toxic environment where nobody has the best interest of one another and everybody's playing for each other's jobs or doesn't like the person they're working with, the chances of success drastically decrease. They're not part of that tribe. So if you want to accomplish something, you have to be surrounded by people that are positive in your life, and you have to be surrounded by people that are supportive. And I do see a lot of times with spouses, whether it's the husband, the wife, or partner, or whatever, the challenge is that they don't want to change their lifestyle, right? And it takes time for that to be successful. But what I've seen work for a lot of folks is sitting down with your significant other, your partner, and saying, listen, I really want to give this the go. I need your support through this. I need you to give me reinforcement. I need you to tell me that I'm doing good. I need you to be the strong person with me. And at the same time, surround yourself with the same type of tribe that allows you to be successful in your mindset, because your mind will attack you. Your mind will say you're not good enough. Your mind will say, let's go back to being the same. And you have to plow through that and say, I'm not willing to do that. I have to do this for my own survival. I have to do this to forge a new village. I need this to ensure that I'm here for my kids and my family. Something has to spark in you to change that, and willing to be able to get up. And it's interesting, actually, it was this weekend. It was Saturday. So Saturday I did legs, and I did legs with Danny. Danny, one of my friends, came out, and we did a lifting session. It was an awesome lifting session. And then like Saturday afternoon, I was exhausted because the week I just plowed through my workouts. I was pulling myself hard, literally pulling deadlifts 3 times a week. I was exhausted. And my mind was telling me, like, from a mental capacity perspective, like, hey, I don't ever want you to lift again. Like, I just don't want you to do it. Now, of course, that's not going to happen. But Sunday, my rest day, I was like, oh, I feel so good not actually lifting. And then like Sunday afternoon, I'm like, I can't wait to get back to lifting. Right. You have to be able to challenge your mind to say, I'm not going to go back to that. I'm not going to take a day off. And if I do, okay, I failed. And I'm going to go back to doing the same thing I did before, which is being successful at lifting and doing whatever my plan is. So the mindset piece is that it's just a battle with your mind every day. And you have to win that battle. And Jocko is very accurate in the sense of this in business, in life, in fitness, and whatever you do. It's those small wins, those small victories with yourself that make you success.
The tribe aspect, I had a conversation. I was on a call with a potential client earlier on. And I mean, every call that I'm on with somebody as a sort of first introduction, like when I'm talking about the process and how things work, like the emphasis that I put on what the team and the tribe of clients, what they offer is not something necessarily that I can sell, because I'm not them. They don't have any obligation to contribute. But what they provide for each other is a huge, genuinely a huge part of why I see success within them. It's the knowing that there's somewhere to go and be whatever you need to be at that time. So whether it's, you know, vent, whether it's rant, celebrate a PR, have a shit show, like whatever you need from that space, there will always be someone there to empathize with you, give the support, or just tell you to shut the fuck up and get on with it. Like it's such a cool environment. And again, to sort of go back to my call earlier with our man, he was talking about having to be out of training for a while, and he was so specific in what he said, and I was like, it is not his job to pick up on these things. But he was like, oh, I remember whenever Mike had hurt his shoulder, and I could just tell he was really sad. And I'm like, I mean, I know he hurt his shoulder, but it's not anybody else's job to know that he had hurt his shoulder. So that level of support and level of like care for everybody else, and sort of like wondering what's going on with everybody else, like I think that is a huge reason as to why I see such success with clients and with the team. I thought you hit the button there. No,
it wasn't me.
All right. With the Jocko stuff, so to get into that, because I feel like we've talked about mindset, but not specifically yet. Obviously, we know Jocko is big on mindset. One of the coolest things that I will say in terms of like one of the best podcasts I've ever heard him on is the one that he did with Andrew Huberman, and sort of like them just talking about the stuff that he does because he thinks it's the right stuff to do, and then obviously Andrew Huberman sort of backing it up by science. Like it was definitely one of the coolest episodes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the stuff, like obviously his whole thing is the lessons that they learned in combat and how that transfer into the business and life. And I think that, I mean, if we talk about the lessons that we learn whenever it comes to training, I think it's the same sort of idea. How you approach things whenever it comes to managing your training and nutrition is the transferable skill. So, you know, how you approach your sessions, how you do things, even down to the like stuff that you let yourself away with. Like I think about this quite a lot. Like, you know, okay, if I go to the gym and I have to do 3 sets on the leg extension, 12 to 15, I'm like, oh, if I just sack the last set off, no one's gonna fucking know. Nope, like right. James isn't gonna know, nobody's gonna know, but I'm gonna know. And that starts the negative spiral and like the negative, like, oh, you're that type of person. So being able to control it in that situation allows you to do it in other situations. And even last night, a prime example, I had told a new client, I was like, I'll look at that for you and I'll make sure I have edited it and it'll be in your inbox for the morning. I got into bed last night and it was like 11 o'clock. I was like, oh, fuck, didn't do that. So I got up, came down here in my boxers, went through it, typed it all, and sent it back. And I was like, I'm not letting myself away with those things. And that just comes from the amount of time and the amount of stuff that I've done in training and sort of trained myself around that. Jocko's mindsets for victory. First one is default aggressive. Now, I can see how this one can be taken the wrong way in terms of like being aggressive, but it's like not the, I guess, emotion of aggressive, the act of being aggressive and acting on stuff. So it's making things happen. So I think a lot of people would admit that they know what they need to do whenever it comes to their training and nutrition, but they don't actually fucking do anything about it. So actually making the stuff happen instead of just actually thinking about it. Moving fast, seize initiative, mitigate risk, and solve problems. I think I can understand, and again, from listening to the stories that they went through, how this applies in combat and also how it applies in business. But I also can see how these things apply in what we do sort of day to day, obviously with work and family life and whatever else, but also in terms of managing your training and managing your nutrition.
Yeah, the aggressiveness, I think, is important, and it can be taken 2 ways, right? Aggressiveness as in like toxicity, and you can say, but our aggressiveness in what you apply yourself to, and that's where I look at it is the latter around.
I think it's almost like assertive is the way that Correct. I would describe it.
Yeah, and I think when you look at how you tackle problems in life, you have to be aggressive with addressing it. A good example is, you know, I historically, whenever I had problems as a leader, I would try to kind of tiptoe around the situation and oftentimes allow it to delay for longer periods of time, thus making it worse, instead of tackling it head on and being aggressive with it to address the problem or situation, right? And that's something that I've had to learn to deal with, conflict specifically. I don't like conflict, I never have. But in certain cases, I have to do it. And that's how my mind works. So my mind actually flips and says, I have to do this. It sucks, you know, but it's something that I have to course correct and figure out, or else it's going to be a detriment to my company or to a situation or whatever that ends up being. And so you have to look at this from a aggressiveness perspective and kind of take it by the reins and move forward with it. And if you look at it from a sense of changing your mindset towards fitness, I think you have to go all in. And I've said this before on the podcast, but I when I get into something, the way that my mind works, I'm not saying everybody else works the same way, but I go all into something, right? I don't want to lose when I say I'm going to do something, whatever it is. I don't want to fail at it. And so I research the heck out of it. I understand what I'm doing. I look at the science. I look at the data. I look at, what is happening around me. I look at how do I be successful when I failed before in the past and learning from my failures. So I kind of immerse myself in a new hobby or trait that I need to learn to be successful in my tribe. And if my tribe isn't geared towards fitness, well, I need to find a tribe that is geared towards fitness. And what's interesting is if you look at my posts on social media, and you go back 3 years ago, let's just say 4 years ago, it's predominantly going to be 100% coding and cybersecurity and drinking. And if you go back, 3 years ago, you're going to start to see me start to post a lot about fitness and health and things of that effect, right? So my interests change, but my focus still stays the same. I mean, I'm still into security. I'm still into, hacking. I'm still into break into things. But what I go all in at that time is what I learned to be an expert at. I put that in quotation marks because you're never an expert in something. You just continue to drive forward. But all of those other things that I've done in the past don't take a side seat. They're part of it, but it just adds to my repertoire of what I have available, right? So fitness, business, cybersecurity, everything else, bourbon, but all of those continue to be areas that I'm proficient in and good at, but I have to be aggressive with those at a given time and recognize that it's my mind that is holding me back.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I can relate this to is something that frustrates me no end is, whenever you're trying to make a decision with a group of people and they're like, oh, I don't know, like just whatever you want to do. Like, where do you go for dinner? That fucking conversation. Jeez. Where do you want to go for dinner? Like, oh, I don't know. I'll just talk. Like, what do you want? I'll just talk. And you're fucking talking around in circles. I have made it my goal that when I'm in a situation like that, I'll just make the fucking decision. So that's where I guess the sort of aggressive, whatever it is, because like you can faff around with making decisions. I realize that going for dinner is a small option, but you can faff around making decisions on things all the time and just fucking waste time. So for me, I've decided that I'm just going to make those decisions. And people look at you like you get the answer, they ask me and they get the answer right away. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I mean, we're going to talk around in circles for fucking hours here and trying to make a decision. I've just made the decision, so that's it done. I think that's, again, I guess the biggest part of that is that you don't want to make the wrong decision. But I think not making a decision all is the worst decision you can make.
Yeah, the worst decision is not. Yeah, it resonates with me because I would always pass the buck, for lack of a better term, like just kind of ignore the problems, right? Whether that was my weight, whether that was something that was going on at work or something I needed to address, if it required conflict or if it required me changing what I needed to do. And you kind of have to shore yourself up and say, listen, is it going to be better long term if I ignore this problem? No. Is it going to be better short term if I ignore this problem? Well, maybe short term, but how short? If I address this problem now, how quick does it fix itself and do things get better? And that's the short, mid, and long term view you have to have on life, which is you might go through some short term uncomfortableness to have the desired results you want, even short term, mid, or long term, to address these things that are in your life. And whether that's the resistance training stuff, we've talked about this before, but they've done a lot of studies on your mind. Most people, it can take anywhere between 6 weeks to several months before your mind actually accepts that resistance training is good for you and that it needs to be part of your daily life. So your mind actually fights you to get there. And I'm not wearing black nail polish. That's where I smashed my finger.
Whatever.
And broke it.
Whatever.
So yeah.
I think the thing for on that point, I think in my experience, the longer you leave that problem or the longer you put it off, the worse and the bigger the story you tell yourself becomes. So if I had a decision to make or a problem to solve or something that was like causing me to stay up at night, whatever, couldn't decide what to do, what to change or something, whatever it was, I could make the decision today and it would be shit and I'll have to go through the shit show. That's absolutely fine. Or I could leave it for a year and think about it every day, allow it to take up mental capacity, allow me to build up how bad it's going to be whenever I have to deal with it for a year, and then fucking have to deal with it anyway. So it's like, do you just, okay, right, this is the situation, this is the shit thing that I'm going to have to do the shit thing, get on the other side, realize it's not actually that bad, and don't spend a fucking year actually thinking how bad it's going to be. Like going to the gym.
Yeah.
For people who don't go to the gym, I realized that going to the gym sucks. I realized that at the start, you're going to hate it. You don't like the environment. You don't like the thought of people looking at you. You don't want to sweat in front of people. You don't really know what you're doing. But the longer that you put that off, the worse those feelings are going to get. And whenever you actually get in there, you'll realize it's not actually that bad. And it's actually okay. And you'll probably go back and you'll enjoy it. And then you'll not be able to not go. And it's that, like, how long are you putting these things off because of the stories that you're telling yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, what Jocko, specifically, I always love how he attacks this kind of from his mindset, right? And you mentioned the one story, and I think he mentioned this on the Human Labs podcast where, he was a young, person in his career in the military side, and he was in combat, and, there was all of these, things going on around him, and, he was taking orders and commands from, various, higher ranking individuals, and they couldn't figure out how to advance or to do a specific task. And Jocko basically lifted his head up and just looked at the situation, right? Instead of playing from a book or building from experience, what he did is he just looked around and said, what is going on here, and what's the problem, and how do I solve it?
Yeah, I think he was on the story. He's on an oil rig, and they're all looking down the barrel of a gun, but nobody can see what the fuck's going on. He said that he just stepped back and could see everything that was going on and knew exactly what he needed to do, but everybody was staring down and
focus.
Yeah.
And it's that ability to take a look around you and even have the courage, if you're in a situation like that, for example, where you have higher ranking individuals or in business, to step up and say what you believe is correct and provide your perspective and opinion. And that's what I commend all my leaders for, both at Trusted Second Binary Defense. It's like, listen, you have to be able to feel comfortable talking to me and be open and honest, and to be able to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, in order for us to be able to make good decisions and never feel like you're going to be, gone after or attacked or things like that because of, my perspective on something. You think you may offend me in some way, shape, or form. So having the courage and aggressiveness around that, and the mindset to be able to do something that maybe no one else is able to do, or to be able to change your life in a certain way, it all comes down to mindset. Today's a great example at Orange Theory. I did the 12, miles per hour at 15% incline. I will tell you, right before I hit that, my mind said, what the hell are you doing? Why are you going to hit that? You can't do this. Like, it's not possible, right? My mind is fighting me as I'm doing. I'm like, go eat shit. Like, I'm going to go do this right now. Pardon for the language, but I'm like, you don't tell me what to do. I know what I can do, and I can do it. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm sweaty. I'm breathing heavy. My heart rate's up. I know this isn't comfortable for you, but you know what? I'm going to do it because I'm going to beat the person next to me tenfold. Okay. So screw off mine. We got this.
Every time you talk about that, I think about, I don't know if you've read this book, the chimp paradox, where they talk about your chimp. So your like emotional brain is the one that you're talking to. It's going like, just stop, fuck this. Like, we're not doing this shit anymore. But your computer brain, like your human brain's like, no, I'm fucking doing it. Like literally arguing. So there is a part of your
arguing.
mind. I would definitely...
Literally, I'm arguing with two people in my brain.
Yeah.
And one's losing all the time now, which is great, but it requires you to go through that, right?
Yeah, that's entirely what that book is about. I would definitely, if you haven't read it, and anybody listening hadn't read it, I would definitely recommend reading it.
And it's actually a skill that you have to train yourself for.
Yeah.
You have to, and that's what, you look at athletes, you look at people that overcome the impossible. It's training your mind to say, well, it is possible, right? You look at, the accomplishments of Einstein and those ones. When they said, hey, this is impossible, they said, okay, well, let's figure out why that's impossible and figure out why we can do it, right?
Yeah.
It's those types of things that catapult civilizations. It's the type of thing that catapult you and your success in your career. It's those types of things that make you different and special. Overcoming that and fighting your mind to get to a certain point, and then eventually those battles become a lot easier to win.
Agree. The next one, because I realize that we need to get through all these, is Innovate and Adapt. And I think that this is a good one. Obviously, if we talk about it from a training perspective, is while you can have a structured plan and it's good to have a plan and going with a plan, it's also good to be able to adapt it whenever the shit hits the fan. So whether it is a case of you don't get your lift in the morning for X reason, to be able to adapt it to do later on the day, or if you're traveling for work and you're not in your normal gym and you're in a hotel gym, being able to adapt it. The same with your nutrition. If you're not 100% on your nutrition, or you're out for dinner and God forbid your chicken, broccoli and rice meal isn't exactly 557 calories, you're going to lose your mind. Realizing that you can just adapt in some way, shape, or form. So being able to adapt, I think, is a vital piece of, number one, mindset, but number two, like the successes you can have with a health, fitness, physical change.
Yep, fully agree. Nothing to add there.
Yes, we agree. The next one is humility. Now, I think this is a funny one. It says humility, check your ego. Ego is the number one killer in business and life. I think, again, if we talk about humility, and we talk about ego, every conversation I've ever had with anybody who started training with me, we talk about how you have to leave your ego at the door at some point, whether it's because of the tempo training or the way the sessions are set up or the sets and the reps and whatever else. There is no ego involved because you just cannot. And I think that to sort of have a successful training career in terms of the gym, you cannot go into it with an ego. And I definitely think in business, you cannot go in with an ego. And it's something that I've sort of, I guess, over the past few years, and I'll give you a lot of credit for this because I feel like you do this well, but like being humble in what you do, like it's a value that I respect quite a lot. So humility obviously falls into that, under those brackets. But I think that if I look at people that I look up to, whether it's in fitness or whether it's in business or just in life, they all share that like modesty almost, and I think that falls under the same bracket.
Yep. And the ego aspect of things, can be something that impacts somebody all the time. And you see that in lifting, by the way, the lifting culture, the ego aspect of things.
Well, I mean, you and I do it all the time, but I think that's different.
Yeah. Different. But I mean, it actually turns people off on the lifting community and everything else that you see out there, because there's a lot of toxic egos out there. Yeah. That are putting down like, hey, empirically it has to be done this way or it has to be done this way.
We do it in jest.
The failures.
We do it in jest.
Yeah, we do. We do it in jest for sure. We we're basically making fun of those folks. But at the end of the day, we have to keep our egos in check with what we're accomplishing and what we're doing, and allow us to be successful at what we're doing without having to, become a monster in certain areas of our lives, which then consumes us and makes us even worse. So I think there's a lot of truth to that.
The next one's discipline equals freedom, which I think we've rinsed. I think we've talked about that enough in many episodes of podcasts. We understand the importance of having discipline and the freedom that brings. And the last one is the extreme ownership piece. And I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I read an article about Adidas reports $441 million loss in quarter one because of Kanye West. And I'm like, how can they blame him? Like, how can they, like, it was their choice. Do you know what I mean? They need to take ownership for making that decision. Like, that was my initial reaction. I was like, these motherfuckers are blaming someone else for the loss for a decision that they made. I realize that's an extreme example, but I really am in tune with this, I think, with a lot of people. Whenever it comes to taking ownership for their circumstances or their situations. And the notes under this are: no excuses, no blaming others, own all problems. And I see this time and time again, like, change with clients. It's like they will come at me at the start with like, oh, I had to do this because of this reason, or I had to do this because of this reason. And then it will slowly change as I did this, I fucked up, it was my problem, I'll do better. So like that, even that switch in like narrative and what you're saying, essentially you're saying the same thing, but you're just saying it in a different way, putting the blame, I guess, in the right place. And I think if you can be in tune with taking ownership of things and placing blame on yourself, whether it's a positive thing or whether it's a negative thing, whether you're in a good place or a negative place, whether you're happy or whether you're sad, whether you're overweight or underweight or in good shape, all of those things are your fault in a positive way and or in a negative way. And whenever you can accept that and know that they're your fault, but you also have the power and the control to make the change because all of those decisions up until that point have been your own, that's a very powerful thing.
Yep. And the accountability and ownership of that, right? Being able to say the reason I'm this way is because of this, but also recognizing that there's a way to get fixed. It's not hopeless and helpless, right? I think that is the key to success. There is hope. There is the ability to correct and fix regardless of what age you started this. And it is possible to reverse the things that you've done, whether it's, again, business, where you failed at certain areas in business or your startups or whatever, all the way to what you're doing from a health and fitness perspective. And it really comes down to your mindset and consistency as you boil down all of these different areas. And it's just repeating the same thing over and over again with the long-term objectives, short-term changes that allow you to be successful in what you're doing.
Agree. And that's the wrap up. I feel like we did 48.5 minutes of me and you talking about mindset, and then we tagged Jocko on at the end of it.
That's right. We had a lot of good stories though. But no, I appreciate everybody tuning in to this week's episode of Hacking Your Health. Check us out on Discord, social media, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere at We Hack Health, and hopefully join our community and share us if you think like what we're doing and can help others. And we'll talk to you again next week, same time, same place. See you all later.
See you next week. Very adamant. Oh, we're good. I was very adamant on the call just now that everybody's shirts had to be shipped.
You got to ship it?
No, shit. Shit.
Oh,
shirts.
okay. Yeah.
Shit shirt?
Yeah. But not ship it.
No, you don't need to ship it. You're going to wear it.
Yeah. Now, does it have to be a collared one, or could it just be a horrible shirt?
Well, I know Americans call this a shirt, so I didn't specify. Mine has a collar.
Okay.
Just leave that bit in.